Bea Ramirez was used to city noise in the same way a diver is used to the pressure of deep water. She never quite felt it until something shifted, and then every square inch of her skin noticed. So when the pigeons outside her third-floor walk-up stopped cooing all at once, she registered the silence like a stab of cold. She slid her headphones from one ear and stared at the windowsill. A half-dozen pigeons sat unnaturally still, throats bobbing soundlessly, eyes fixed on the opposite wall. They reminded her of choir boys who'd forgotten their hymn. Then, as abruptly as the hush had arrived, they resumed their low burble and clattered away into the grey April afternoon. Bea's mic was still hot. "Listeners," she said, feeling that familiar conspiratorial thrum in her chest, "either every pigeon in Wicker Park just saw a ghost, or they paused to receive an update like somebody pressed CA on a feathery spreadsheet." A few months ago, she would have tagged the moment with a jokey jingle and moved on to talking about City Hall budgets and the Illuminati. Her podcast, Chasing Echoes, lived on that liminal line between satire and sincerity, where you could sarcastically claim Lake Michigan was a hologram and still keep subscribers who weren't sure you were kidding. But lately, the what-ifs had started to feel heavier. Too many small noises were lining up into something like a signal. After she signed off the episode, Bea scrolled through her email and nearly missed the new message buried among spam. Subject line, admin privileges. No body text, only an attached WAV file. Sender address, a string of hex digits. A prank? Maybe. She downloaded it anyway, fed it into Audacity, and watched the waveform appear as an oblong smear of spikes, like someone shuffling a steel deck of cards right next to the mic. When she slowed it to a quarter speed, she heard a pattern. Chirps, squawks, then a brief melodic trill. Bird code. Bea cued it through her software-deified radio and stared at the spectral waterfall on her monitor. Amid the scatter of police and taxi bands, the file generated a pocket of rigid vertical lines, digital narrow, repeating every 2.013 seconds. She checked the frequency readout. 433.92 meters. That was an odd one. Cheap garage door openers used it. So did hobbyist drones. And apparently, so did something that spoke in pigeon grammar. The next day, Bea took her portable antenna to Daly Plaza during lunch hour. Wall Street protesters had once occupied the same granite, chanting at the Picasso statue. Now, office workers occupied it with salads and earbuds and pigeons. Hundreds of them wattled around the ankles of both. She tuned her receiver to 433.92 and let the earpiece nestle behind her curls. The noise floor lifted. Hiss, then beeps, then that same trill. At the exact moment the trill sounded, every pigeon in the square rotated 10 degrees to the left. Bea nearly dropped the radio. Around her, no one noticed the synchronized pirouette. The birds resumed pecking. But every other 2 seconds the message repeated and the pigeons clicked like compass needles. Here was the update she'd joked about broadcast in raw daylight, unnoticed. "Okay," she whispered. "So this is either the coolest avant-garde art piece Chicago has ever seen, or the city's rats with wings are running a mesh net." 2 days later, Bea sat with her friend Omar in a Humboldt Park makerspace. Solder fumes and cumbia sharing the air, Omar maintained an open relationship with Chicago's underbelly. Half IT freelancer, half digital locksmith. "You want me to man in the middle a flock of birds?" he asked, eyebrows almost hiding behind his goggles. "Just record the packets and see if we can spoof them," Bea said. "If we talk like their handler, maybe we can get the handler to answer." Omar clicked his tongue. "Any idea who's on the other end?" She shrugged. The email's address resolved to an architecture firm downtown. Lawton and Kress. Ever heard of them? He paused. "Lawton? The rumored starch architect who never shows up to openings?" "Yeah, people say he designs buildings that get built under other managers' signatures. Blueprints arrived by courier. No revisions, no meetings, just perfect BIM models. They say he lives above the city, literally. B leaned in. What do you mean, above? Urban legend. Toronto Tower. Or an airship. Something absurd. He squinted at her. You didn't think to mention that in your podcast? I was waiting to have actual evidence. She felt him studying her with a mix of admiration and worry. Evidence gets people disappeared, B. Ratings first, she said, only half joking. By sunset, they had collected a gigabyte of Pigeon packets. The data looked nothing like TCP/IP, or anything defined in RFCs, but when they ran the stream through an image plotter, translating bit clusters to grayscale pixels, a rough silhouette emerged. Layered circles, radials, crossmembers. A blueprint rendered line by line in birdsong. It resembled an enormous rotary gear the size of a city block. Omar whistled. That's not a building. That's a rotor. Rotor for what? He tapped another key. Scale bar says 415 feet diameter. That's a rotor for lift. Something electric crawled up B's spine. You mean like a helicopter, except bigger than the Willis Tower? Like a fortress that never touches ground, he said. If it exists, you wouldn't see it from below. Too high, low visibility, maybe active camo. But it could park above the loop, watch everything, deploy. Pigeons. Genius, B muttered. Bird's eye spies. She took the train home, watching the sky out the window, half expecting to catch the outline of a castle floating past a billboard. That night, she uploaded a teaser episode. Cryptic beeps, a few frames of the blueprint rendered in ASCII, and her promise to do a live broadcast in 48 hours. She titled it, What Watches the Watchbirds? The download count spiked by morning. He'd poked the hive. She arrived at the makerspace to find Omar pacing in front of the laser cutter. We got a response, he said, eyes wide. On his phone. Another email, same hex address. This time, text. Cease transmission. You have breached the aviary. Below it, coordinates 4187D at W, altitude 2308D, timestamp tonight, 23 o'clock. Loop coordinates, Bia said. And altitude? 2300 feet is higher than any rooftop here, Omar noted. That's mid-air. They're inviting us. Or warning us off. He rubbed his palm over his buzz cut. You're really going up there, aren't you? Absolutely, she answered, before her caution could argue. They spent the afternoon hacking a plan. Omar adapted a drone racing quad with a mesh repeater. If they could feed commands onto the Pigeon band, perhaps they could hijack a scout bird and use it as eyes. Worst case, we lose a drone and your podcast becomes posthumous, he said, only slightly kidding. That night the city felt hyperreal, edges brighter, alleys deeper. Bia and Omar climbed to the roof of a 30-story office tower near the coordinates. The wind peeled at their jackets. It smelled of ozone and thawing river water. B set up her boom mic and streaming rig. Chasing Echoes went live. Chicago, she whispered into the mic. I'm staring at a stretch of sky that, if the data is right, hides a building no one admits exists. My partner Omar is cueing the handshake. If something answers, you and the world will hear it. Simultaneous. Chat messages flowed like ticker tape across her tablet. Do it. This is fake. Be careful. FBI incoming. Omar tapped enter. The drone rose on its cobalt LDDs, climbed past the rooftop lights, and circled until it found a cluster of pigeons roosting on a ventilation parapet. On B's video feed, a bird's eyes glimmered metallic in the drone's IR. Tell me that's not chrome, she murmured, the moment the drone broadcast its spoof packet. Every pigeon lifted, a single grey wave. The radio hiss spiked, then crystallized into a new pattern, 5 tones, descending, like an airport chime. A reply. They watched as the birds formed a column and began ascending in tight spiral formation, unperturbed by the wind. Omar piloted the drone inside the spiral, its camera gimbling upward. The pigeons were guiding them like swirling markers toward something invisible in the star-blotted dark. As the altitude meter crossed 1900 feet, static swallowed the video feed. B's monitor went black, except for rolling text. "Welcome to the Peristeron." She read it aloud for her listeners. "Greek for pigeon loft," she added. "Or maybe, the place of pigeons." Another line appeared. "Ascend another 400 feet to confirm intent." Omar glanced at her. "We can't get the drone that high legally." "We're past legal," she said. "Can it do the climb?" "Maybe. Battery will hate us. Do it." The drone climbed. At 2,280 feet, the sky changed, or rather, she saw what it had been hiding. A vast ring structure with an open center, like a flattened torus, maybe 6 football fields across. Along its underside, matte plates shimmered with a faint honeycomb refraction. Stealth skin. Micro-LED stitched patterns that borrowed the color of the sky around them, breaking outlines into static. Only when the drone crossed a certain threshold did the camouflage drop, exposing grills, landing spires, and bay windows luminous as aquarium pane. The chat stream detonated in caps lock. Some viewers claimed CGI, some claimed rapture. Bia's jaw locked open. "Ladies and gents, the Sky Fortress is real." A talon of carbon lattice extended from beneath the hull like an unfurling fern. At its tip perched a pigeon, but grown monstrous. 4 feet tall, eyes ruby, feathers segments of overlapping ceramic scales. The golem seized the drone in one swift clench. Telemetry flatlined. "Cut feed," Bia hissed. "Now!" Omar killed the stream. She sank to her knees on the gravel, heart ricocheting. "Think we kept enough buffer?" she asked. "We got everything until the drone died." He checked his laptop. "But look, connection's still open. They're talking." On screen, a text prompt. Voice preferred. B fumbled her headset on. "This is B. Remy Ires. Who are you?" The response arrived in measured syllables, a calm baritone synthesized from, she guessed, hundreds of stolen mic samples. "I am Lawton, keeper of the Peristeron. You trespassed, yet you broadcast. Why?" "Truth," she said. "Accountability. The public has a right to know who's watching them. Surveillance is civic hygiene. That's not your call to make." Silence, then. "Approach alone. Elevator shaft, 7. A. 1 hour. No recordings." B exhaled a shaky laugh. "He wants me to visit." "I'm guessing that's not a great idea," Omar said. "It's the only idea." She stood. "If you don't hear from me by sunrise, drop everything we captured to every server you can reach." He grabbed her wrist. "This isn't some ARGB. That fortress has hardware that eats drones." "All the more reason, right?" He pulled her into a hug. "For the record, I hate this." "Copy that." They climbed down, parted at street level. B hailed a ride share, directed it to a closed parking garage in the loop. The driver never spoke. She suspected the pigeons watched even him. In the top floor of the deserted garage, an unmarked service door stood ajar. Beyond it, a freight elevator awaited, industrial lights flickering inside. She stepped in. The doors shut without button or panel, and gravity left her shoes. A lattice cage rose through pitch black, its only sound the faint whir of maglev rails. When the doors parted again, Bia confronted a cathedral of steel ribs and hanging garden. Artificial daylight glowed from panels curved along the ceiling. Pigeons patrolled balustrades, some normal-sized, others schooners of bone and feather. Offices bracketed the central atrium, each paneled with drafts and holographic models of buildings she recognized. Libraries, hospitals, skyscrapers. All Chicago. All with subtle features that now felt like Lawton's fingerprints. "You came." The voice boomed softly, source unseen. A figure approached along a bridge that spanned the atrium. Tall, slender, genderless in grey linen, face half-masked in ceramic that resembled a pigeon's beak. "Architect," B breathed. "Golemancer if you prefer," Lawton said. "Architecture of organisms, organisms of architecture. The city is both." B steadied her phone inside her pocket, audio recording toggled. Why spy on everyone? Feedback. he replied, descending stairs toward her. Cities evolve by observation. My pigeons harvest data. Traffic flux, emotional timbre, violence thresholds. I correct stress points before collapse. You're playing SimCity with real citizens. Would you deny the surgeon his MRI? B clenched her fists. People are entitled to their own secrets. They are entitled to live. Secrecy kills. He gestured to a hologram, a heat map of shootings overlaid with bright tendrils. Where I route school expansions, crime metrics drop 15%. When I adjust traffic light algorithms, asthma admissions fall. The pigeons inform decisions that your elected bodies delay for years. I operate with precision. Under zero accountability. She faced him. My listeners will demand transparency. Your listeners will demand trans-spectacle. His mask shifted with an unseen smile. I gave them one. A fortress in the cloud's viral content for a news cycle. Then their feed will renew with fresh scandal while I continue unseen. BR thought of the chat frenzy, the dopamine spike. He wasn't wrong. But she also remembered the way Omar's jaw trembled when the drone died. Fear cut through spectacle. She said, people fear what they can't audit. You can't scale benevolence behind secrecy. It curdles. I can, he gestured at the atrium again, because no one else has the vantage. B forced herself to swallow the ore. Then give them the vantage. Open your data. Impossible. Too much context required. Teach them. For the first time, Loton hesitated. Behind him, a row of pigeons cocked their heads as if awaiting the architect's cue. Let me propose, B continued, voice skating past the wariness in her throat. You keep your fortress, we keep our city. But the feed becomes public raw bird telemetry, anonymized, open source. We build a community to pass it. Civic hackers, researchers, high school coders. Larton's mask tilted. And if they misuse it? If you believe Chicagoans are so fragile, shut the whole thing down now, but if you're right about the collective organism, it'll grow stronger when the data is shed. Silence collected like dust motes in the air between them. Then the pigeons began to trill, soft, plaintive, a chorus of tiny modems. Lawton raised a hand. The birds hushed. Your passion intersects my design, he said quietly. Perhaps that suggests harmony. He walked to a console, beckoned her. On its glass surface spun a mandala of coloured nodes. Live avian network. One-time keys, he explained, tapping to reveal strings of characters. The grant read-only access. You may distribute them at dawn. Beyond that hour, new keys will cycle and must be renegotiated. B gaped. You're serious? I am pragmatic. He faced the pane overlooking the city below, kaleidoscope of streetlights. If transparency collapses the system, I'll know, and I can rebuild from lessons. Deal, she said. His mask inclined. Leave by the freight. The pigeons will escort you on the descent. B's heart kept miscounting, unsure whether she'd won or been co-opted. The elevator opened into the garage, dawn bruising the horizon. She checked her phone. It still recorded. She exhaled. There would be hours of negotiation with newsrooms, civic groups, code forgers. She texted Omar one line, keys in hand, release at sunrise. He replied instantly, Sky looks clear. So do our channels. Bayes stepped onto the roof and glanced up. The fortress was invisible again, but in the soft light, thousands of pigeons fanned across Chicago like living pixels. Somewhere in their small ceramic bones, new keys already spun, ready to seed an experiment no algorithm had yet modeled. Public trust. And for the first time in months, the city's noise felt less like pressure and more like breath, filling her lungs with raw, unknown possibility.